Hi everybody, welcome back to Flamespyro art for beginners and beyond. So we've been looking at the smoke series of clouds and how we can create them. Now I spent a bit of time looking at how to create like banks of cloud with more depth and more realism to them, and I've spent maybe a week or so far tinkering about looking for different tonal values, different shapes in the clouds. And one of the things I've discovered is, let's take for example this front funnel where it's got a big large plume of black smoke coming off. Now within this like stack of smoke, we'll call it, there's many opportunities to capture depth within your smokestack or your massive cloud. What I've been doing, I've been using my Optima medium space shader, and I'm at setting 3, so it's like a medium hot heat. And basically just there's areas like we'll take here for example where we can push more depth into the cloud by, see, here's a piece of smoke here. And clouds, if you look at them, they, especially on this reference picture, they have many different shapes and shades to them, but you can push areas back and give more dimension to the piece by darkening up a cloud basically that is underneath or at a lower level than a cloud sitting on top of it, if you catch my drift. It's all about finding those tonal values. So let's say if this piece of cloud is sitting nearer to the eye than the bank below it, all we do is we must darken off this cloud darker than the one above, and it will then give the illusion of depth to the piece, that this one is actually sitting nearer to your eye than the one below it. And you can just really have total freedom, really open your mind and just get creative with your cloud formations. What you'll want to consider is maybe even going to like an extra small space shader, so you can really get in tight into the detail if you're a pyrographer like me who wants to get into every single tiny little detail. Depends how much work you're willing to put in, really, as to what effect you'll get out of your piece. Using the burn low and slow method of pyrography gives you the opportunity to search for those tonal values and see what looks right, see if you can create different levels within your cloud banks. But they go off just in so many different tangents and layers that it's all open to your own mind's vision, really. So the reference picture is there as a guide, but we also want to, just open your mind and go with what comes to you as you're working. All this front stack of smoke is all pretty, we'll call it polluting. It's all dark. Then we have lighter tones that we're going to add in a little later, but we're slowly inching our way up this first funnel of cloud. I'll just work away for 10 or 15 minutes without saying much, and so you can just see a little of what I've been doing. Don't forget, when we're creating three-dimensional images, we have to think about smoke tailing off into the distance. Here's the front of it, but then it also has depth, doesn't it, to it? I'll pull my reference picture up. If you bear with me a second while I switch on that tablet. Been doing a lot of it just from my mind. Switched on. Let me get the image up. Tablet will freak out now for 5 minutes. Switch that off. So on the reference picture I can see around this area this piece of cloud is tailing off back down the train. So when I want to push something deeper, you take it to a darker shade and you turn the board. So I can give it an edge. And you can flip your board around so you can come at these clouds from many different angles. Because I started off with just keeping my board like straight in front of me, and I couldn't really then get at the angles of some of the other shapes. But the more you layer up, you know, the deeper you will push at the edges of the clouds. You know, there'll be areas where it's really dark in there, you know. There'll be some areas where it's sat further forward, like this area that I'm going to start looking at next. A big stack at the top is a light tone. Now, one thing we don't want to do when we're searching for realism with pyrography, we need to get away from outlining. I know I see a lot of brilliant art in the pyrography group we have, but a lot of the artists outline the images, and in real life, like say a cloud bank like this, it hasn't got a dark outline all around it, has it? You know, if you're searching for realism, you need to move away from outlining. Yes, it'll have a clean edge to value, you know, clean edges and things, but there won't be a dark outline. That's something you do want to try and move away from with your pyrography art as you progress. And I'm very fortunate that I was blessed with great patience, and I can spend hours and hours just fiddling away on like just small areas, just searching for more depth. And as this is a really black smoke, on it. Everything has to go darker yet. But as we can see here, we can see like sort of a different layer with putting that dark patch in there and the lighter. It looks like there's a tear, and if all this area shades up darker than that, it will appear further set back to the eye. But we don't want to set the whole thing back. You know, there's some areas that'll be sat proud, still set forward. And that's where using the burn low and slow method gives you that opportunity to search out the right tones and shades. Whereas if you cranked your heat up high, there's a saying, it's easier to go darker than it is to go lighter, and that is really true with pyrography. You know, so just turn your unit down a little bit, because you can always add more layers and go darker as required. But to go lighter, we need to get the sandpaper out and then start making a mess out of all the work we've done, and before we know it, we're really upset and we just bin the piece, or we stop doing it. So by keeping that heat under your control at all times, you won't have to get the sandpaper out anymore. Don't know how long it's going to let me record for, but we're going to go for another 10 minutes. You'll find yourself as well with your pyrography, you'll jump around a lot. You know, 1 minute you're over there, next thing you're over here tweaking and touching up areas, pushing things deeper, bringing things forward. And on a small image like this, they are tiny little, like sort of like V shapes and different levels. But I can honestly say clouds and smoke is not a daunting prospect in any way. It's just a simple case of opening up your imagination. If you have a reference picture, use it as a guide. But after a couple of days of working at it, you will just start to feel more and more confident about what you're doing, and just start experimenting more, see what works, see what doesn't. Look for opportunities to create more depth into your art. And try and add, when you get, say, to the edge, say, of a cloud here, you can add a sort of puffiness to it and depth by darker at its back, and then blending your shading lighter, and then barely touching my pen down just to add that tiny little bit of shading to it, because I don't want it to appear flat, any of the cloud. I want it to look fluffy, as clouds are. And in a minute, on this second plume is white smoke for a little bit, then it goes back to really dark polluting smoke. So once we get to the light smoke and a time lapse a little to get himself started, we'll have a look at that together. This is just going to be an ongoing experiment. I always like to look at them like when I was a kid, and I used to do them jigsaws that were like 3, 4, 5,000 piece jigsaws, and they'd take me a couple of weeks to do them. Maybe that stood me in good stead for my pyrography, because I can happily spend weeks and weeks on one piece. sometimes you get burnt out on it, you know, you spend so much time working on one that you have to put it away, and you get sort of sick of it, and so you put it to the to-do pile, and then you start something else for a while, and then a couple of weeks later you'll be able to revisit the piece and start again. Because I took on such a massive experiment here with so much smoke, I knew this was going to be an epic journey. And here's a great example of what I've been talking about. There's a piece of cloud here, and it tucks up. And if we follow it round, remember this is all still just on setting 3, and when you want to change like the shading you're putting down, you can just very lightly just flick your pen over the surface on that heat setting. Once you get skilled enough, you'll be able to work on a happy medium heat that you find you've got full control over. And for quite a while in the piece, you can just leave the heat setting alone. Try and always think in your mind, how would the lighting, how would the shading look to make that object look 3-dimensional, as if I was looking at it in real life. To create something that isn't flat to the onlooker's eye. How long we've been going for now? We're at 29 minutes, so I said I was going to do half an hour. So that was just some brief story touching on what I've been doing with this cloud bank, pushing things deeper, bringing things further forward. It's got a way to go yet, as I find all the right tones. Everything's got to darken up, with this dirty smoke. But hopefully on the image you can see some depth being born, and that's just by different contrasts of shading. And there's, I mean, this is like white smoke at the side, it needs more work doing yet, but hopefully when the piece is finished, it'll be a couple of weeks for me to finish this, definitely. We should have a great looking massive cloud coming off the steam engine. So have fun with your pyrography, everybody. Just play around, see what works for you. There's no right or wrong way to creating pyrography. You know, if you just want to have fun, create quick pieces of art, you know, they can be just as beautiful. Or if you want to really study the art form and dive really deep into it, then there's the option of doing that as well. But always just have fun with your pyrography, and it's a great escape from your troubles, from all your worries in life, mental health conditions. I know I suffer with mental health conditions myself, and pyrography is just a great escape. As you find yourself just getting into the zone of what you're doing, everything else will just disappear into the background of your mind. There's many great sort of health benefits, if you like. Any art form does. Right, so I shall leave you there for today. Thank you for watching. Now add some more of the time lapse to the end of this video, as hopefully we get to the end of this main front stack of cloud. I'm inching my way there. We'll get there soon, and then we can move on to looking at pushing all this other smoke much deeper back. Okay, so have a great day, everybody. Thank you for watching. Take care. Don't forget to leave me a like or hit subscribe to watch further videos that will be coming down the line on this series on creating clouds and smoke. And there'll be other themes coming along the line, no doubt, very soon. Okay, take care for now, guys. Thank you for watching. Bye.